Good morning and welcome to the Pleasure for Health Ask Elsa Anything About Relationship and Intimacy Questions podcast. That's a long title for saying this is all about relationships and just my thoughts, my musings on that. And you can take a look. I've got quite a few podcasts already recorded on all sorts of topics ranging around anything with partnership, relationships, self-awareness. Pretty much everything has to do with relationships at some level. So I welcome you to today's topic where we're going to talk about self-esteem. And I've just been reading this book by Nathanial Branden, which I guess is a classic on the topic of self-esteem. He wrote it in the 50s, I think. And some things just don't change that much. He actually had a lot of wisdom, even, then, although we might think, oh, we've moved on from that, we still have a ways to go as far as becoming self-aware and becoming masterful at building our own self-esteem. And why would we even want to do that? That's what we're going to dive into today. So if you want to find out more about me, please go to my website, pleasureforhealth.com. Take a look around. There's some interesting blog posts there as well. So the quote that I put in the write-up about this particular episode was, self-esteem is an intimate experience. It resides in the core of our being. So that really drew me in, of course, because I'm very interested in intimate experiences. And I was like, wow, this is something I want to look into, because having self-esteem is kind of a relational piece about ourself. It's kind of, you could say it's similar to self-love or self-efficacy, being able to make choices for ourselves, self-autonomy, all of these words that we throw around there and we realize they're important, but we're not actually sure what it means exactly, or how do we get there. So that's kind of what I was curious about. And the fact that it's an intimate experience means that maybe I can, bridge some of that from my experience as a relationship coach and a sex coach around, how this might get built up. So basically when we're, looking at self-esteem, we can look at our body wisdom. And so those of you who've listened to my podcast before, I'm a somatic coach, which means I deal with the body. So here's a really simple way of knowing, are we in touch with ourselves or not? And basically, relaxation, if you're relaxed in your physical body, it implies that we're not hiding from ourselves. We're not denying our feelings, and we're not at war with who we are. That leads to relaxation, both in our chronic muscle tension or fascial tension, but also in our mental and emotional tension. We're not, fighting ourselves like, oh, I should go to my cousin's wedding, but I don't really like my cousin. Should I go or not go? We all know those kinds of experiences, and they make us tense. So the relaxation of just going, I'll go to my cousin's wedding and I'm happy to go, and I know that I don't like them, but I've made a choice and therefore I'm moving forward. You can see how that becomes a self-esteem building choice. Now I'm aware of the fact that I don't like them. I'm aware of the fact that I have a choice about going or not. And I'm aware that I've made a choice. And then I'm going to just live into my choice and not sit there in angst about, have I made the right decision? Is it a good idea? Oh, maybe I shouldn't go because now I'm just going to, cringe every time they talk. All of those things we just let go of. So, we could just as easily say, I'm not going to go to my cousin's wedding because I don't like my cousin. Therefore, I see no need to go. And then you let go of any kind of family obligation or anything that would, kind of eat away at your relaxation, effect. So chronic tension then, on the opposite side, would imply some form of internal split, some form of self-avoidance, or even a self-repudiation, Some aspect of the self is being disowned or being held on a very tight leash. That kind of leads to tension. We're disowning some part of ourselves. We're not acknowledging something. Whether that's the fact that you don't like sitting at a computer 8 hours a day, if that's your job, and some part of you is fighting that, or you don't, you find it stressful to talk to your mother for whatever reason, and after a phone call, you've got a headache and your shoulders are up around your ears. That kind of tension. You could just, look at your body and go, well, do I have chronic tension anywhere? And begin to unravel what that has to do with. Many people have tension, let's say in your lower back. Is that around something to do with bending over backwards for people? Is it something that you feel unsupported? Are you not supporting your own self somehow? Are you over supporting other people? All of these kinds of things that our body points out. And we could go into that in another podcast, how that language of our body actually speaks to us. But the point is that the very simple test of saying, am I relaxed or do I have tension, would already point to, am I having some kind of split in myself or not? And if we have a split in ourself, we are going down the road of degrading or, eating away at our self-esteem, because self-esteem would assume that you're worthy and you have something to, kind of stand for, and you have values and you know what those are, and that you stand for what you say, all of those things, which wouldn't let you stay in that place of indecision. It would say, well, here's the pros and cons, make a choice and let's move on. And, you can see some people do have that kind of ability to just kind of barrel forward, and they may not necessarily be someone with whom you'd say they have great self-esteem. They seem to just kind of bulldoze over everything. And I would say that that's not necessarily what we're aiming for. It is possible to have a kind of pseudo self-esteem that is built on success or outward success or that kind of thing. But somewhere in their core, they're disconnected from empathy or compassion, that kind of thing. So, I'm not talking about just the people that can make decisions quickly and not care. This isn't about a not caring. This is about a caring very much. And this is why I really love that self-esteem is an intimate experience. Intimacy requires vulnerability. It requires a knowing of ourselves. It requires an ability to put ourselves in another person's position and really feel into that. But if we live more to avoid this pain than to experience joy, and if we feel that crucial aspects of reality with which we must deal are hopelessly closed to our understanding, if we face the key components of life with a basis of helplessness, or if reality is the enemy of our self-esteem, we are cut off at the knees. These are powerful words that were, in this book around self-esteem. If reality is the enemy of our self-esteem, then we are really cut off at the knees. And, if we are facing a reality that is we don't want to face, then really we have cut ourselves off from ourselves as well. And I can speak to that, and I have done in this podcast before with relationships. If you are, in a relationship with someone and you are denying what is actually there in the relationship or what is not there, and you stay in that relationship, you are basically degrading or whittling away at your self-esteem by staying in that relationship. If you're not being honest with yourself and your partner or whatever, then, your self-esteem goes down and down and down because you're at war with your own self. Some part of you knows this isn't working, and yet you're still there. And so I'm not even advocating that every time something feels wrong, we need to leave our partner. But what I'm advocating for is to face reality and go from a basis of where am I right now? And you can hear this, actually. I've listened to lots of business coaches talk about this kind of thing, or life coaches, where am I right now? Where do I want to get to? Let's be honest, if my business or, my life or my relationship is on the rocks, right now, then let's get really honest about that. And then if I want a good relationship, let's get really honest about that. Do I actually want that? And then let's like look at that honestly. And when even just doing that much will already build your self-esteem, because now you're intimately knowing yourself. You're saying, yeah, you know what? This relationship I'm in right now is working for me on the level of comfort. My partner makes good money. We have a great house. I don't have to work, but there's no intimate connection. There's no kind of, I'm not getting my needs met sexually or relationally. He's like a stranger to me or whatever. So you get really honest about that. And then you can look at it. If the reality is, you know what, I like my comfortable house and I like the fact that I don't have to work, then make the choice fully and completely that you are happy in that situation. You might have to let go of your relational needs with that person anyway, or negotiate some other way to have your needs met. But if you continually kind of fight against it, like, I wish the person would change. I wish he would know what I was really feeling. I wish he would bring me flowers. I wish he would like be more thoughtful. If you're denying the reality of what is right now, then this wishful thinking is basically going to be you at war with each other. And then you're going to feel your self-esteem slipping down further and further as you're like, well, maybe I'm not worthy of someone, paying attention to me. Maybe there's something wrong with me that he doesn't want to be intimate or vulnerable or, make time to hang out with me or all those things. It starts eroding our self-esteem. So you can see how, making a choice, and I've known people that have made a choice to stay in a relationship like that, and they have great self-esteem because they know exactly why they're there. And they've, created friendships or created, hobbies or whatever that fulfill their needs. Or maybe they don't have that many intimate needs either, and they're quite happy in that relationship. Therefore, it's great. But for someone who's not happy, if you're finding that you're at odds with yourself, I go back to that tension thing. If you're at odds with yourself about something, it is degrading your self-esteem. And if you degrade your self-esteem, you are making choices from a place of low self-esteem, which I guarantee is not going to be a good choice, because now you're making reasons and stories why things are the way they are, and you start blaming yourself, and you're starting to make a choice around from a place of fear or from a place of low self-esteem, from a place of undeveloped self-esteem, where you're just motivated by, well, I'm afraid to leave because I don't know how to make my own money, or I don't know if I could hold down a job, or whatever the thing is. But now you're making choices for you and your life out of fear. And I guarantee that if you live from fear, that it is not going to build your self-esteem. What builds self-esteem is having confidence and having a motivation. So if you are motivated by confidence and great self-esteem, and you're like, I have really awesome skills, and I know I could get a job tomorrow, and let me go do that, and or look into that, find something that really fulfills me, then you're going to make a choice from that place of confidence. That's going to offer very different aspects. You're going to pick a different partner. You're going to find, you're going to be spending your time doing something you love because you're confident. And, people, here's one thing that is absolutely true. We are always attracted to people who have a similar self-esteem to us. So that's one secret way to know, where's my self-esteem at the moment. And notice who are your comrades in life right now? Partners, comrades, friends. Would you say they have good self-esteem, or would you say they're lacking in self-esteem, and you're all trying to bolster each other up in kind of a false way? Because many friend groups do that. And, when I work with women, particularly in my coaching programs around, rebuilding self-esteem after emotional abuse, often I say to them, as we do this work, your friend circle is going to change. Some of your friends that were hanging out because you had low self-esteem and so did they are going to fall away as you build your self-esteem and confidence. They're not going to resonate with you anymore. They're going to be like, why are you changing? Why are you being stupid? La 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 la. And they're going to try to talk you out of it. But if you keep on your path, you'll find that those people fall away because they no longer resonate with you. So it's a great thing to notice who is being attracted to you, who do you hang out with, and what sort of level of self-esteem would you say they have? Because, that's a mirror for yourself. And you'll notice that people with great self-esteem have a great circle of friends and they all seem to be, having this wonderful time. And you're like, why can't I be part of that group? And you might even go along to, the coffee or the activity, but you just can't seem to jive with them. You're like, oh, these people are just not my people. Well, that may not be true. That may just mean they have a different level of self-esteem. So that's something to consider. And it's potentially like humbling to notice, but it's a good way of measurement. I've had a couple of women that, as their self-esteem starts to grow, they've managed to attract slightly higher self-esteem partners or friends. And, that's progress. And I say to them, you might not be quite at the level you would love to be at yet, but you are making progress. And these people are less needy and less, depressed or anxious than your friends were a year or two ago. Because a mind doesn't struggle for something it thinks or feels is impossible. So if we feel that it's impossible for us to get anywhere, we don't even try. And so self-confidence, self-efficacy, self-autonomy, self-esteem, the confidence to imagine something better for ourselves, imagine what we want and actually work for it, gets our mind on board and gets our body on board. And we actually can do amazing things. And I don't mean that we all have to become, prime minister or some great famous person. No, it means do great things for you, yourself, and for the people close to you or for the environment around you. It doesn't have to be big things, but it will be an integrity. It will have integrity, it will have love, and it will have a confidence that helps that move through all of the fear-based choices that people are making these days. Be out of a undeveloped sense of self-esteem, I would say, as well. The tragedy of many people's lives is that they look for self-esteem in every direction except within themselves. And so they fail in their search. People look for self-esteem in their, getting a bigger house, getting the right friends, getting the right job, moving to the right city, all of these things. They're looking outside themselves and they will fail in their search for self-esteem. It will probably actually make them feel worse because they won't actually be getting any more confidence in themselves at all. So then it's like the only thing that they can come up with is there must be something wrong with me because I'm not succeeding in these things. So we have to raise our level of consciousness and notice what our own experience is. How do we do that? Raising your level of consciousness and finding out who you actually are and what are your strengths and weaknesses and what do you need to work on within yourself is kind of a lost art, I would say. And I'm so passionate about getting people doing this work again, doing this consciousness work, not just the, meditating and just kind of zoning out, but real hard, grindy consciousness work. Who are you? Like, listen to your body and really understand your emotions and learn to think for yourself. This comes from a place of confidence, and building this type of intimate connection with yourself is what I am very passionate and love to work with. So we learn about who we are as a person, what we relate to, what do we care about? This is a question I ask a lot of people that study with me. What is it that you care about? What is your heart longing for right now? And don't make it about anyone else's longing. Oh, I want my partner to be happy. Oh, my friends said, this particular kind of work is the up and coming thing, so I care about that. No. What do you care about? And, really dig deep with that. What gets your emotions and your body and your mind all excited? How can we integrate all of those longings? So yeah, basically, how do we look at ourselves? Are we coming from this place of insecurity, this place of anxiety, or are we coming from this place of self-esteem? And raising our level of consciousness that we can helps us build our self-esteem. And building our self-esteem helps us to find intimacy with ourselves, with our loved ones, with the world. And you can imagine that as we build this capacity for intimacy, we can no longer turn our backs on things like the environment or turn our backs on, other groups of people. Because when we're intimately connected to ourself, that is impossible to deny that there's pain in the world. And I'm not saying we'll ever get rid of pain, but we will no longer be able to deny that it exists, or to, kind of walk blindly around, oblivious to everything else but our own self in sort of a victim mode. We will be really present and in integrity, and we will feel what is going on. And that could feel overwhelming to us at the moment. But as you build self-esteem, you know that that's not your fault necessarily, or you take responsibility for your part in it, but you're not the only one. You're not like, oh, it's all my fault. No, it's all of us together that need to raise our self-esteem, or enough of us so that we can actually have some efficacy in dealing with this, and not just either come up from a place of fear and say, oh my God, and like, nobody go do this thing. Because, that's these choices that are coming out of fear are not building our collective self-esteem or our individual self-esteem. What really builds that is saying, you know what? I have a responsibility here, and so do we all. Let's work together. Let's find a way to move forward together, and let's stay present. Stay present. And that is where the boundaries comes into this, because if we're not present to our boundary, to the edge of who we are and where we interact with the world around us, we're not present to that place of intimate sharing. And if we're not present to that intimate sharing, then you could argue that we aren't conscious, we aren't aware, and we're, some kind of fear or dissociation, running away or fighting, or what all of those responses that we might do are pulling us away from actually intimately living in connection with everything. So that's kind of a big ending, isn't it? But I really loved the idea that self-esteem could be the thing that we're actually all longing for. Self-esteem is something that we actually would help all of us to make better choices. So I leave you with that thought today, on this Tuesday, and I just would love to hear your comments on this, or any thoughts that came up for you. Again, if you're interested in working with me, I have a number of different levels of that, from online courses that you do at your own pace, to working with me one-on-one, to coming to my retreat center and actually having an in-depth experience over a number of days personally. So out of all of those types of choices, please do, consider that. Look at my website, have a thought, because I am so passionate about, doing this. And with every person that I interact with, I actually learn more about myself too. So thank you all for listening. And I look forward to having you on my podcast and on the other end of the ether somewhere, the next time we go live, hopefully next week.